Okay, the New York Islanders, always one of the more perplexing teams drafting in the NHL draft, but I think this year could buck that trend. At 20th overall, they drafted a player that, even with all the shortcomings out there about him, I couldn't believe was still there at 20 in Cole Eiserman. Now, there are maybe other factors at play that the Islanders are setting aside that they just kind of go, if he's a top 6 scorer, let's take him at 20. They've done this before, and they've ended up with some NHL players doing so maybe it happens again with Eiserman, but I'm not nearly as pessimistic as I was in September, October, and November about Cole Eiserman anymore. I thought his under-18 tournament was fantastic. I think a lot of the immaturity in his game that may still kind of be there here and there. I mean, it's a little explainable by the fact that he's one of the youngest players in the draft. He's got an absolutely incredible shot that he deploys from all over the place. He's able to score goals in a variety of different ways rather than just wiring them from the face-off circles. And I think the pace of his game has increased over the course of this season. His skating stride is a little bit weird, the skill level is not the best, and he can lose control of pucks and transitions a little more than you would like, but in general, I think there's something here. Even the playmaking moments I saw out of him, you could look at his assist totals and go, yeah, he's not a great playmaker, but there are some moments where I'm going, most guys aren't doing that kind of thing, and Eiserman is doing that kind of thing, so let's see if he can do more of those things if I'm coaching him. So for me, I really loved this pick at 20. I mean, considering who was available, it's as hard of a swing as you could possibly take, in my opinion, and I think there's a ton of upside here for the Islanders. At 54th overall, speaking of a ton of upside, they picked Jesse Pulkkinen. Now, I have grown to love Jesse Pulkkinen this year just because I love players who just have their brand. And he is a player who has his brand. He can alternate being a really smart puck mover, seeing the ice really well, using skill and head movement to really deceive defenders and just move the puck really efficiently. But then the next shift, he can get the puck on a puck retrieval and skate 5 miles an hour in front of his own goalie, bobble the puck, someone else picks it up and scores a goal. And you're just going, how does that happen? And this is a guy who has his ups and has his downs, but the ups are very, very interesting. He's gained a bit more of a physical edge to him. I think he uses his reach extremely well defensively to stick check and get sticks in lanes and just defend pretty well. He worked his way up my list this season into my second round. I had him ranked 57th, so seeing him going 54th makes sense to me. And I really have grown to enjoy Jesse Pulkkinen. I mean, if you really want to have some fun, see if you can find some tape of him playing in the Finnish Junior League earlier in the year when they were playing some of those really bad Finnish junior teams, and it's just hilarious to see him basically playing keep away, never passing the puck, and just doing whatever the heck he wants in the offensive zone. It's a lot of fun. He did not play that way in Liga, and I don't expect him to be that kind of a player in the NHL, but he is a lot of fun to watch, and I think he's a really interesting player, and if he works out, I can't wait to see him in the NHL and see how he does there. Then at 61st, they drafted a player that I had a little bit higher than Pulkkinen, but was really pleasantly happy to see him go to the Islanders here in Kamil Bednarik. He's just a high-skill guy who drove really good results for me in every single game that I saw. He has good pace in his game, he's an intense player, he's a good offensive creator as well. I just think there's a lot of good high-end traits with Bednarik that you can bet on long-term. I expect him to be a really good college player with time. We'll see how it goes beyond that point, but the skill level and the excitement level that he brings is really, really high-end, and he always excited me when I watched him, so I'm happy to see him get picked, and I hope that he does well with the Islanders over the next little while. At 115th, they drafted goaltender Dimitri Goncharov, who is a 3-time undrafted player. Now, I didn't see a ton of Goncharov this year, or at least didn't pay much attention, but after the draft, I went and looked, and yeah, I mean, he's a good goalie. He's much older for the draft class, and he's much more physically developed in the draft class, but the results are pretty amazing, and so we'll see what happens with him. The developmental track is a little bit shorter. Clearly, the Islanders have had excellent goaltending over the last few years and plenty of history with Russian goaltenders, and maybe there's a connection there, so we'll see what happens with Goncharov, but interesting selection, maybe a little bit off the board, but interesting pick. At 147, they drafted Marcus Hitloff, a goaltender from Leksand in Sweden. Now, people in Sweden seem to love this guy, and when I watched him this year, I didn't really see a whole lot that really blew me away. He's very, very big, but the athleticism kind of lags behind, in my opinion. He kind of was not really following the puck a whole lot, and a lot of the saves that he did make were either desperation saves that he can make because of how big he is, or just saves that he makes because of how big he is. We'll see how it goes. Obviously, athleticism can be developed, and people seem to really like this guy. I just watched him a few times and thought there were other goalies that did a little bit better for me, and I always thought that seeing him where he was ranked here and there was a little bit hasty, but at 147th overall, yeah, sure, I could see why you go for him. And at 179th, they closed their draft with Muskegon's Xavier Veu. Now, Veu's a guy that I've seen here and there, watching other Muskegon players, and I watched a few games of him in isolated tape, and he didn't really move the needle for me. And again, he's another one of these guys where it wasn't bad, but I'm not sure what he does at the next level. He's just kind of an effective player. Relatively smart, moves the puck okay, isn't an active detriment in really any way, but isn't the most exciting option either. And I always have a hard time projecting those types of players. And this just seems like one where you hope there's a lot of development and you get something out of him in the future, but at 179th, I mean, again, you can't really complain about a whole lot of these guys going off the board. So for the New York Islanders, I'm going to give them a 1C here. I think considering the tools that they had in the draft, they did a really good job. All 4 of their first 4 picks I found really intriguing. Cole Eiserman at 20 could be exceptional value when we look back on this in the future. Jesse Pulkkinen is an absolute riot of a hockey player and could be a very interesting player for them. Camille Bednarik is exciting and brings a whole lot of pace and skill and fun to the game that I think that Islanders fans will come to love. Dimitri Goncharov looks like a really interesting bet in net who just keeps saving pucks after puck after puck at multiple levels of Russian hockey, and he is a little bit further along in the developmental fast track. Marcus Hidloff, people seem to like him. You can leave him in Sweden for a while and see what happens. And Xavier Veu, I mean, if he turns out to be the 6th best player in this draft class in 10 years, who cares? He's the 6th player you picked. I don't have huge expectations, but if he turns out to be something, then great. So the Islanders overall, they maybe could have done a little better here and there, but I think considering who they ended up with, I would be pretty happy with their draft class. So that's it for the New York Islanders report. If you liked it, you can check out our Fanatics affiliate link in the description box where anything you buy in the store gives us a small kickback, or you can go to Scouching.ca where a subscription gets you access to a private Discord server, as well as plenty of cool toys like drafted prospect and undrafted prospect data sheets, and plenty of other stuff like exclusive blog content, and you can check that out at Scouching.ca. So that is it for the New York Islanders, and our next one will be the Winnipeg Jets.